Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Just want to be sure that I saw yesterday Kent said he would have to jump quickly, but I want to make sure he's coming at all. Because if he's coming at all, I want to wait just a minute. Okay, just maybe wait a minute here. Let's see.
Kent sent a message to those of us in the Carry Pie maintainers group that he wasn't going to be at that meeting. He didn't say anything about this one though.
Just said something came up. I don't. Maybe it was just to me. Yeah, it was just a direct message to me. He just said something came up, and he was gonna have to drop early. He'll give his update at the start and have to go. Um, and I don't know if we're expecting anybody else. Maybe just let's give it another minute or two. If not, I can give the best update that I can. I'm actually just trying to pull up Confluence right now here. Okay, I was going to ask this. I see that there are these meeting notes from June and from last month. And I also see that there's this template that Kevin updated on June 17th. So that's pretty recent. When I go to, this is just like a Confluence question. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to it. When I go to the web index and I do, like, I want to create a new thing, I can like select page and then I can select meeting notes, but that's not like his template. That's some other template.
Yeah, so go back, get out of this.
And that's like the other things. I can't quite figure out how to get out of this.
There's a close button right next to publish. Maybe that'll close it.
Oh yeah. And then I'm in this like weird
Yeah,
spot.
where did it take you? That's bizarre.
I know this happened last time. I'll just back.
Yeah. So what I do is go down to the template that you saw there.
Yeah, this is what I was hoping. There's some way to directly do this
Yeah, so select the kebab menu on the upper right.
here.
And oh, you're in a weird. Oh, did you update to the new UI? Maybe no.
I don't know.
Let me go in because I know where I always do it. It's like a create a copy or something is the
Hmm.
very stack working group, WebS meeting page, and then meeting a template. Yeah, so maybe it's a permissions thing or it's a different. Here, let me share real quick. I'll just show you what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it might be permission.
Yeah, I got
Wonder.
it. So right here, of course, you guys are covering it. So I just clicked on this guy, the meeting notes
Mhm. Yeah.
template. Up here, I have a duplicate button.
Okay.
And when you click that, it asks you for what page to make the parent page. And then I always select the
Yeah.
2025
Yeah.
index by just typing it in. So
Um,
I'm not going to do this. Or do you want one for today?
okay. Well, I'm gonna track this down after the
Okay.
meeting. I had intended to get the page ready to go before we started, but I didn't know how to
Yeah.
do it, and I apparently can't. So
Yeah,
I'll
that must be.
that
I have no idea. I don't know how I mean, Trust Server
some
IP is part of Linux Foundation, so it gets a little hairy when you try and get permissions set up. Right.
some granular permission. Um, okay, well, I'm gonna kind of just shoot from the cuff here a little bit, then walk through a couple of things. And I guess it might be a short meeting. Um, the major, I mean, there's been a lot of progress since last time. I did update, well, I can share this at least. So as of last meeting, we had these, oh, okay, I guess I didn't save it, these to-dos. I did move the to-dos to a page at the top. It's right here. And Kent has looked at the universal resolver and got it to function correctly. I'm going to say that a little loosely in the sense that is there a way for me to save this now or something? Publish? There's got to be a publish button, right? Or maybe
Yeah,
not.
if you just made changes, maybe under the kebab menu again.
I
Nope.
probably can't publish either, can I? Probably the problem.
Is there something at the very bottom, like a save?
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. Anyway, I'll reach out to Kevin. Um, So yes, so I've and then the to do I updated, but like it doesn't matter because I can't publish. I marked fixed did WebS Universal Resolver driver as complete, and then it undid itself. But that's basically where we are. So Kent did a lot of work this last month, and there's been a fairly long chain of interaction between Kent and Marcus, and a little bit of comment from myself in this in the chain to work out getting the integration with the universal resolver fixed. And so as of today, it's working. There are some open issues around, I guess, correct functionality. Um, And, so those are some open things that we're running down with Kent. And there's some kind of legacy example did WebS dids that Marcus has floating around in some of his materials that are not compliant with the spec that he's looking at fixing. So, I'm going to call it 95% done. And then I think what's remaining is really, to some degree, it's going to be ongoing as we continue to um, polish the spec anyway. I mean, there's going to be changes that we make as we polish the spec that are going to have to be reflected in these implementations anyway. So I think we're right about there. Um, but we can see there are some other things still to be done. The next kind of community oriented activities that I think are worth tackling, and I'll talk to Kent about this as well, is registering passing the test suite, putting it in the did matrix. I think we're at a good place to maybe do these next three here. And like I said, I'll talk to Kent about that. Um, yeah, and the I don't know exactly the status of retiring the Hyperledger Labs old version of the resolver, but just to be clear, I certainly view the version of the resolver that sits in the Glyph IT repo as the definitive one. That's the one that works, and that's where all the changes have been made. And I think
Yeah. Okay.
that's where we should be pointing people if people are asking.
Hmm.
Um, just FYI.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the old one was made in an attempt to um, collaborate, I guess, with the BC Gov folks who feigned interest in this did method a while back.
Sure. In any case, though, like, yeah, I just want to be clear, and I have an open conversation with Kent as well on that. He added some issues to the Hyperledger repo, and I kind of was like, why? So we're talking
When
about
did
that.
when did he do that?
Just
Recently?
yes, just yesterday.
What?
He opened something. He's like, he said, I opened this issue in the soon to be retired Hyperledger Labs repo, and I'm like, Ken, but like you just said it, it's soon to be retired. Like, why are we putting anything in there? Like, so I
The
have to.
only issue you should open is please retire this
Yeah,
repo.
exactly. I just have to wait to hear his justification. But okay, so I think that's all I'm going to cover on that. If anybody's interested, I do encourage you to go to that repo. Ken's got it really slick in terms of just the operations. You can host a static endpoint locally. There's a Docker container whole like orchestration setup thing that you can run. It's really nice. So I think anybody who wants to kind of get into it, it's a really good introduction, and he's done a really good job as he has done in other places of documenting and explaining. So I think I'd encourage people to go take a look at that. The only other issue that I had for today is actually I've opened like a second pass of running through the spec top to bottom to just see places that we need to address. And one area that I have found is the ABNF actually was wrong. Um, it was categorically wrong in the sense that it required base 64 characters for the AID, which of course, if their Cs are encoded, they're going to be base 64 URL. And
Mm,
I fixed that, and I think that is definitive. Like I think it would actually be wrong to check it against base 64.
yeah. Yeah.
And so I fixed that. The question I do have though, and I've wondered this because I it kind of came up when I was I did go ahead and take that action from last week to propose an ABNF for the said or the skid URN.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I'm sure we can discuss that when we get, to that meeting the next time. But it's a similar issue. For for the version, okay, so let me sure frame it this way. The did WebS spec lives next to a version of the carry spec and a version of the Caesar spec. And I don't know whether we want them to be correlated in any way. But the question I have is essentially, can we further than just assume it's base 64 URL, that it's actually always going to be capital E and 43 base 64 URL characters, meaning it's always going to be a hash table, basically.
Well, no, because it could be something. The E is for Blake 3 hashes
Uh-huh.
for said generation. You could use SHA-256, SHA-512, and then it'll start with something different.
Okay, so then that brings me to exactly the open issue that I have for the ABNF for the SKID URN.
Yeah.
And that is, and I went ahead and made this decision. We can decide if we want to fix it, but like there is a known number of Caesar codes for a hash. It's like there are nine possibilities or something, 13, something like that possibilities. So you actually can have a defined ABNF for, starts with one of these characters and then it's either 43 or 86.
Yeah, for now. So we can add new hashing algorithms at any time in the future. I'm sure we can say there's a limited number of characters they can start with, right? Because the code tables will only support so many characters. So we could limit it there, but I don't know if we would pick one that would have a different size than what the current ones
Well,
have.
and then that brings me to the initial question, which was
Yeah,
if it's true that we're publishing this version of the carry spec next to this version of the Caesar spec, next
right.
to this version of the did WebS spec,
Then we could lock it down.
can we take that snapshot in time and say that anytime we update the carry spec, that's going to cause an update to the Caesar spec and it's going to cause an update to the, you know, um,
Yeah, I think yeah, you
WebS?
may be right. If we pin it against a specific version of which I guess if you just reference it, that says that's the spec we're using,
Yeah.
right? You have to do that at some point. So then, yeah, you could say that at that point, those are the codes that are defined. So then that's the limit of hashing that could be done. So yeah, I guess that does make sense.
And I mean, I don't know. I'm of two minds in a way. I think to some degree, I really like to some degree I feel it's a little bit of a sellout to say just base 64 URL because it's like it really is quite a bit more specific than that in reality. Like it's
Mhm.
quite a bit more specific than that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like it's going to be Caesar at the very least, I'd like to say Caesar encoded as opposed to base 64 URL. And you know how I say just generally how you can reflect generally Caesar encoded in ABNF, I don't know. But I do know that if we're going to say hash, we probably can. Now, what you just said, I want to run through that one more time and ask one additional question, and then I think that's it for today. But like, um, so I said if the carry spec changes, then the Caesar spec would have to change, then the did WebS spec would have to change. And the reason I'm saying this is because the Caesar spec has the what do you guys call it? The version and genus code table for
Yeah.
the version of
For
carry,
or
correct?
carry, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So in other words, carry somewhere is going to tell you what is allowed for an AID in the spec, correct?
In theory, there was, and I don't remember where we landed on it or how many changes were made to the spec to support this, but in theory, I know Sam wanted to get the definition of the carry code tables out of the Caesar spec because Caesar itself
Oh,
is just the
sure,
encoding. The
sure,
table definitions should be in the place where the protocol is defined, which would be in
sure.
carry.
Yeah,
But I don't
makes
know
sense.
if I haven't read the specs in
Which
forever.
is
I don't
totally
know
fine,
if
by the way, too, because
he's
then it
done
would be
that.
when the carry spec changes, then the did WebS spec,
Then did what, and you don't have to worry about Caesar because Caesar is just
which is
defining.
totally fine because did
Yeah.
WebS is absolutely carry dependent and always will be. Like it's not it's not, you know, it's always gonna be that. So but my point is that like then as the carry spec updates and the definition of what an AID can be updates, then we'll update the did WebS spec. That would be my
Mhm.
vote if we're
Yeah,
voting.
yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. And then you can, and that can be a conscious decision to say, I'm going to create a new revision of the DidWebS spec by
Right.
upgrading, by
Hmm.
pointing it to new versions of
Yeah,
Carry and Caesar, if that's what's
right.
needed, or just Carry, and then add the new whatever the new additional characters are to the form for the
Right. So to some
um,
degree, I like this too because basically
URN.
what we're saying is that like did WebS will support some version or versions of carry. And you know, and it needs to be explicitly updated when we want it to support a newer version of carry. And the nice thing about that too then is now we have more options to um, validate. We have a stricter validation for the actual URL, like
Mhm.
the did itself. When the did itself comes in, we can look at it and go, like, this is junk. Like, I'm not even gonna bother with it because, like, you know, it doesn't like this is not Caesar. This is not a valid AID, so I'm not even gonna bother with it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
I think that's a nice capability. All right, cool. I'll make that
agreed.
change now, and I don't know what I kind of have just an open feature branch right now that I'm going to kind of run from top to bottom and make some changes, and one of them is going to probably be the new approach that we're taking to AID delegation. Um, and then at some point, hopefully in the next, maybe before the next meeting, it would be awesome if before the next meeting I could have the PR in and we could look at it and have just a
Okay.
top to bottom. But I think some of that reading from top to bottom is also going to impact the work that Kent's done because there's a lot of detail in that DWS spec that you got to pay attention to if you want to implement it. So I think some of it's been missed. So
Yeah, let me just look real quick. The next meeting for September. Yeah, I won't be at that meeting. So, but maybe we'll get Sam there, so that'll help.
sure, and even if it's just Kent and me, and we just, I mean, and
And
others,
then you just
at least we can
review
like
it, yeah, and
work
then just
on some
publish the
stuff and
comments.
just make some comments, and hopefully we can get some meeting notes. I'll send a note to Kevin right now and just ask him if he knows how I can get this fixed, and then
Okay.
we'll fix the meeting notes.
All right, great.
Guys, thanks.
Sure, no problem.
See ya.
Take care.
Guys.